It's very much the native influence, where you will see mud and grass tuples right next to a big high-rise building. And I was fortunate enough to live there for 3 years when my dad was in the military. He also allowed me to live in Japan. And being what you call a transcultural kid, I was always interested in other cultures, other places to live. So travel has just been an obsession with me. And places that I have been are Africa, Japan, Hawaii, Canadian Rockies, Spain, Germany, Italy, Sicily, Croatia, France, Alaska, Mexico, Cancun and Cozumel, Puerto Rico, Bonaire, Grand Turk, Roatan, and Belize. And what makes me want to go back to Asmara is because I spent 3 years there when I was a teenager, and it's from looking at the research, it's a lot different country now. But it's not so much Asmara that I want to see, it is to dive in the Red Sea. And considering that the two-thirds of the world is underwater, and I have seen a lot of it above the water, I got certified to scuba dive when I was 50 and decided to see what the rest of the world looked like. So I want to go back and dive in the Red Sea. And logistics of getting there is, I haven't researched the airfares or the actual route, but I know the places I have been overseas, it takes you a long time to get there, and I'm sure it's going to be even harder to get into. I think you have to go from here to Amsterdam to Cairo, and then by Eritrean Airlines. And the most of Africa in that vicinity is not really lush. It's a pretty barren mountains, and but up on the mountaintops and in the valley, the mountaintops where there is the rainy season is more lush and green. The down in the valleys and the banana plantations, you also see a lot of green, but there's also a lot of really desolate land there, but you see a lot of wildlife, and it's just a beautiful place. Everybody should go there once.
All right.
Questions?
Religion.
Pardon?
What's the predominant religion?
There is, I know that there are Catholic churches there. I can't remember what the other one is. I just looked at it today and I can't remember what it is. But there are Catholics and there are Muslims there as well. Pardon?
Was it like Ethiopia in their religion?
Yes, it is. Actually, Ethiopia or Eritrea was under the rule of Ethiopia until I left there in 60. I think it was from 1961 until 1991, they fought a 30-year war for their independence. So now they are no longer under Ethiopia. At the time when I was there, Haile Selassie was the emperor. Any other questions? Yes?
You said it was settled by Mussolini after the war, but Mussolini didn't survive the war. Was it a post-war?
Actually, it was colonized by Italy much earlier than the war, before the war started. And a lot of Italians moved there during the war, and that's where the Italian influence came in.
Do you need a visa to go there?
Yes, you do. Mm-hmm.
Is it safe in that?
Actually, and I did read this today. I did do some research on it. I just didn't have enough time to make it a formal thing. But yes, it is considered one of the safest in Africa right at this time.
None of the stuff from Sudan is going over that way?
No, not in Eritrea. It's Sudan or Somalia. Somalia is not that far away either. But according to what I read today, that it is a very safe place to go. Yes.
How large a country is it?
It is the size of England.
Gosh.
It's not a very large country. Asmara is, like I said, it's on a mountaintop, but there are two other cities that are very close by. There's the city Karen that's also a mountaintop, city that's 2 hours away, and Massawa is the seaport city that is a 3-hour drive down the mountain, which we made that trek many times, and the mountain was a very narrow 2-lane road with one switchback after another. You had to take a lot of Dramamine to get down that mountain. And one reason that I chose there to dive, I know some of my friends have been to Egypt and been diving in the Red Sea up in the northern part of it, but during the time of that 30-year war, they closed all the fisheries. Massawa is the main port, and they closed all the fisheries there, so the abundance of species of fish in that area is prolific. It's just more than any you'll ever see, and there are a number of islands off the coast. I can't remember the name of those, but so the diving is very good there.
Isn't it going to be a long dive from Asmara to the Red Sea?
No, you have to go down the mountain to Massawa.
There is information here in your Africa Fun Stuff.
Your homework. Okay. The country that I would like to go to is Australia. I opened my email last Thursday, and on my email is a picture of a spider eating a bird.
Okay.
The bird is about yay big, and the spider is about yay big. And it's from my daughter, who's saying this is one of the things that's in Australia. And along with that is a map of Australia that shows the giant spiders, the crocodiles, the alligators, Steve Irwin, convicts. Forgot what's over in the southwest. And then there are some, and the cockroaches, and then so it's, and in the middle of Australia it says nothing. I'd like to go to Australia and New Zealand, can't decide which. There are 2 possible things you can do to get there. You can go on a cruise. Of course you have to fly. Maybe I should have put that part in. You can go on a cruise around New Zealand and Australia. You can take a land tour that allows you to see more things on the continent of Australia, and it is a Commonwealth. You would be using either buses, trains, or short, maybe not so short, flight hops between cities. I'd like to see the Great Barrier Reef. I'm not a swimmer or a scuba diver, but I understand that they have glass bottom boats that you can look through and see the little fish swimming in the sharks and giant crocodiles, whatever. So I'd like to see that from a safe place. I'd like to visit the rainforest, which you can also do. That's on the Cairns side of Australia. In the middle, of course, is Ayers Rock, as somebody mentioned it. That's a geological formation. George can tell you some more about geological formations than I do. And it's also a sacred place for the Aborigines of Australia. It's, I think they call it dream time. And there you can, one of the big things to do is see sunset or sunrise over Ayers Rock, depending on which side of the rock you're on. And you can also ride camels out to see Ayers Rock. There are zip lines that you can take. There are canopy tours that you can take through the rainforest. They also have a wet season, which you wouldn't know it to look at some of the pictures from Australia. I understand that October is when the monsoons come through and the rain is like it was here Thursday, actually. Sydney, of course, there's that beautiful opera house. And it was I believe it was Sydney that was no, it was Melbourne, where the first convicts came to actually populate Australia. I think Captain Cook, and don't ask me what year because I didn't do my homework. There are a lot of interesting people in Australia. I think you have to have a visa to get in. You have to have a job and a skill to be able to immigrate into it. I think they're the primary country that they get their immigrants from is New Zealand, actually. And when someone tells you about New Zealand, they will tell you about how strict they are there about their environment and everything else. Needless to say, the cruise ships don't go around Australia. They usually hit Sydney and maybe Tasmania and go on to a lot of the interesting places in New Zealand. Australia's climate is about diametrically opposed to ours. When it's spring here, it's fall there. Requires thinking. But I think it sounds like an interesting place to go. We've recently had some correspondence with some guys in Canberra, Australia. This was some of you who have been in Huntsville a long time know that there's a tracking station there at Honeysuckle Creek. And when we had the Apollo 11 moon landing, they were the ones who got the pictures from the moon. So the way it happened is just that there are 3 observatories in that area. One that was supposed to track had a fire. Another one was too low on the horizon, so they couldn't do it. So Honeysuckle Creek was the tracking station for that. And they used the phrase that I have never heard before, being where we live. One of the guys said, we don't use, it was talking about the type of format that your disc is in. And he said, well, we use a more friendly system than on the other side of the Pacific. And I had never thought about us being on the other side of the Pacific from Australia. But I'd love to go there. There are people talking about an Ollie trip there. And we should have started saving our Confederate money in about 1940. It is an expensive trip and a long one, as Pam told you. I think the 28 hours total was the longest I have heard. Frequent flyer miles will be used probably to do to up you at least to business class. But it sounds like a great place to go. And I know from the listing on the sheets that there are a lot of other people who would like to do the same thing. So I hope we all get there.
All the people in Perth turned their lights on?
I think it was a little bit,
or was it just a
I
satellite?
think it was a little bit later, maybe one of the later Mercury flights they all turned the lights on so that they could see them going over.
Right.
And it was just such a wonderful thing. It makes you realize that we're insignificant. George?
Are you planning to climb Ayers Rock?
Do I look like I'm no, I believe that to Jed?
There's the Aborigines have an interesting habit. They carry a walking stick that's a hollowed out, maybe 2-inch diameter tree, and they carry the ground up bones of their favorite ancestors. So they carry it with them everywhere they go with this walking stick.
Who else in here has been to Australia?
I saw the movie.
things that are supposed to come back to you, but it's kind of like your mind. You're afraid to throw it away because it might not come back.
On the space, another thing about Skylab fell in when it fell in Western Australia.
When it came down.
When it came down, yes. When it came down, it fell in just past a little town in Western Australia. And I thought the funny thing about that was that little town charged the U.S. $400 for littering.
They might have worked 4 million.
Yeah, too much. You have another funny story about Australia.
Yes.
About when you went to Australia. About your balloon ride.
Well, yeah, you mentioned earlier about the NASA tracking station.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we took a balloon ride, and we started in Alice Springs, which is near Ayers Rock, in the central part of Australia. And of course, you want to avoid the winds, strong winds, so we went up really at dawn. So we went up at dawn, and there was, we tracked over. We saw a lot of animals down below and so forth, but we started to enter the controlled airspace of the NASA tracking station, and our pilot decided that he didn't really want to do that, so he tried to bring us down fast, and in the process we hit a tree, and we sheared off a tree, not a big tree, but a couple inch down, and we had 12 passengers plus the pilot, so it was a fairly large balloon, but because of the tree, it made us lay over, and so we landed on our side, and my wife was sitting there, and she said, "How do we get out? We're right there in the middle of the sand. It's we were right there already horizontal."
Choice between crashing or getting shot down.
Right, yeah. Well, I don't think NASA would have shot us down, but it might have been a little bureaucratic if we crossed into their airspace.
More than the $400 littering. Yeah. George, you had something you said. You had your hand up.
You were against this one?
Oh, okay.
And there is more information. Someone like Eleanor who wants to go, or Jay and Pam who've already been there, than to just be reading or even showing what we can get off the History Channel or some of that, the channels. And I want to encourage every one of you lovely people to think seriously about being host families for something I've volunteered for the last decade, and that is I'm sure you know, UAH is one of the choice places of all of the world for bringing international students and people from every country you can think of. I've hosted them from Azerbaijan, India, Ukraine, Vladivostok, I still don't say it correctly, but anywhere and that you can think of. It is so wonderful to have them in your home. They're having another one coming up soon. Now, we're all volunteers, just like over here at Ollie, so no one is reimbursed for anything. But it's so wonderful just to learn about these incredible people that you can have in your home. And they have, right now, the group that's coming in, you only have to keep them. I kept one, we kept the whole year that went to high school here. She'd already finished high school over in Vladivostok. She may teach me how to say that. In Russia, it takes as long to fly from Moscow to her home of 9 million people as it does for us to fly from here to go to, say over in the Philippines. No, farther than that. Let me think. Some place, Japan, Korea, somewhere like that. So it seems so amazing that it takes that long to fly from one part of their own country to another part, and as it would be for us to go to Korea. But it's a joy to have them in your home. You host family. The ones that are coming now, you only keep them like one Friday night. They want to see what people live like in just regular homes. And they did not tell me to say anything about this, but it's just been such a joy to meet these people from all of these countries that I just want to encourage you. If you have, it doesn't matter what you have. The person that we had was the voice of Radio Free Europe and The Hague They select them there at the Hague for Radio Free Europe, and they're so creative there in the way that they have, every time they do a radio broadcast every afternoon, it's called About After Work. That's the name of the program, one of the programs. And the countries that do not want Radio Free Europe and anything from the Western world to get out into the rest of the world, you can guess what the names of those people are. They will keep them from, what do they do to the airwaves? And so they have to be, it's cat and mouse. They have to keep figuring out how to get out the message from America and things that are going on in the free world and to get to the countries where they don't want the information to be. So the women know that there are places in the United States and other countries where they get to go to school. And all kinds of marvelous things that happen. That we have a meal where each one cooks from their own country. My next door neighbor was, he was from Portugal, and his wife was from Portugal and France. Anyway, they had a New Year's Eve party and invited, from right here in Huntsville, they had 25 countries represented at the New Year's Eve party. That's all employed here in Huntsville. NASA, all of our contractors. It was so incredible. They brought their food, they wore their clothes, and they got together. We have such do you realize how incredible it is to live in this city, in this area? We are the most fortunate people in the world, in my opinion, because we have everything they have in New York City, as far as people from all over the world. And I was sitting in a restaurant the other day and listening and could hear 4 different languages. Not that I know those languages, but you can tell Spanish from German, from Russia, if you've been listening, from Chinese, from whatever. It was just great. And I'm saying, right here in our tiny community, a village of Providence where I happen to live, you can go into the restaurant and just listen to people from all over the world. And that's why that I want people to know where Alabama is, where the UA Huntsville is, where you live, the work you've done. Do you realize that Ollie Osher has the smartest people in the world? This is